Welcome to another episode of the No Ceilings Podcast. I'm Tyler Metcalf, joined as always by Tyler Rucker. Rucker, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Now that I'm talking hoops with you, another glorious day in the basketball world, another glorious day in the draft scouting world. We're officially a week away, Metcalf, from
It's wild.
the finish line. How you doing? How are we holding up?
Doing great. Back-to-back days talking hoops. Gotta love it. Yeah, I'm just busy time of the year. Only a week out from the draft. Insane that it's already here. It's been a really chaotic, exciting, fun, dramatic draft cycle, and a lot of smoke being spewed all over the place. If you need to catch up on stuff, our draft guide is out. The reception has been awesome. Head over to noceilingsnba.com. There's a link there. And when you do buy it, make sure to download it. If you have download issues, if you forget to download it and you only have one view and you get an error, just email us. We'll get it cleared up and taken care of. But we got a chock full episode. We're running through all of the international prospects in the 2025 NBA draft today. But real quick, Rucker, so a little bit of breaking news just a moment ago. The Buss family casually cashing in on $10 billion for the Lakers, at least in terms of a controlling ownership stake. Thoughts, reactions?
Yeah, I was driving back and got the Shams bomb, and it was like breaking, and I was like, "Oh, draft trade, yes." And then I was like, "Lakers sale, what?" So, and then I didn't see until I sat down right before we recorded. I didn't see the price tag on that one, but stuff of dreams. To be able to sell a company for $10 billion or something that you own for $10 billion must be a fun feeling, kind of signing that line. So really interesting. I mean, anytime it's a historic franchise, one of the top ones in sports. Yeah. Gosh, I hate saying that out loud. So I'm a Celtics fan, guys. So it's always eye opening when you're just like, wow, passing of the torch. The Celtics just did this, or they sold their team, and I feel like immediately I'm like, oh gosh, I'm nervous. With new ownership, are they going to be in for paying? Are you going to have deep pockets? And you try to immediately look into the new owner as much as possible, and everyone goes on the dark web to find the secrets. So it's just an eye opener with a team like the Lakers that you always were like, oh, it's the Buss family. They're always involved with it. But what were your thoughts?
Just shock. I feel like the Buss family name is synonymous with the Lakers at this point. And obviously the first time in our lifetime that they're going to have new owners. Now Jeannie Buss is reportedly going to still be the operating governor and still hold a minority stake. But I believe we've seen that be the case in Dallas recently, and yes. That didn't last long either. So we'll see. Hopefully she got some of that in written language and in the contract, because if I'm paying $10 billion for something, I'm going to have some fun and play around with it a little bit and have a bit of say in how it's run. So we'll see how long that lasts, but wild time and hell of a price.
It always feels like that's like fake when they say like, oh, they'll still be on. It's like, what, you paid $10 billion just to have them stay? Like, no, I'm the same way as you, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we just saw this with Dallas. How'd that work out? So just crazy, especially a team like the Lakers offseason. It's just like, whoa, like you don't usually see breaking sold Lakers and all in one sentence. So crazy times. Basketball, this league.
Yeah. And to those saying in the chat, we saw this last year with Boston. That was an outright sale.
Yeah.
A little different. So let's just dive in. Also real quick before we do, next week we got live shows for the draft, Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have more details on that next week, but we will be live on YouTube and here next week. And then Rucker and we're going to try and do another show early next week before the draft. A little bit of intel, smokescreen, final reactions, potential storylines, Q&A, all that kind of good stuff. Just final dump before the draft. So come hang, should be a good time. But we got a very, I don't want to say loaded necessarily, but we have a large international prospect pool this year. So let's start out Noa Essengue, 6'10", 204-pound forward, 7 feet, 0.75-inch wingspan, turns 19 mid-December, playing for Ulm this year over in Germany. Where do you want to start with Noah?
I mean, the whole town knows how I feel about Noah. I'm excited. I'm buying the upside. He's been a guy that I've been kind of keeping checks on for the last couple of years. I had a good buddy of mine, Jimmy Rhodes, that I used to work with back in the day when kind of was, trying to keep the door open with my time in the NBA. And Jimmy went on to be the player development coach for Ulm. And 2 years ago, I was asking him about Pacome Dadier. I was like, I really like this kid. I watched him during Basketball Without Borders. I think it was like during the off season. I was just like, hey, I'm intrigued with this kid. I don't know why I started with the international class, but I was like, I'm intrigued here. Talk to me about him. And he was like, you need to look at Noa Essengue. Yeah. Like, what? And he's like, you need to watch Noah. You will be falling in love. And I was like, all right, I'll check him out. And I went back and watched Noah with the Ulm's developmental team, which is Orange Academy. And he was a bad man down there. I mean, he was like 16 at the time, and he was just doing stuff and dominating, putting up big numbers. I think I even sent you a text. I was like, Metcalf, we need to kind of maybe watch this one for the future. And so like early on, I've been kind of being like, I want to keep checking in on Noah. I think there's tools here. I really like it. And been one of my guys I've been high on all year. And it's more of just the developmental track. There's a long way to go.
Yeah.
Long way to go. Especially with the body. I think that's the biggest thing. But I've liked the benchmarks he's hit each time. I've liked that the play is starting to look a little better, a little bit more fluid. I like that the shot's trending in the right direction. My biggest thing with Noah is I just keep saying, like, how much more do we have to unlock here? That's the thing. Because if there is a lot more and you buy into that, I understand taking them in the top 10. But if you think, hey, we might be getting close to the ceiling here, what type of player is this? So I'm intrigued, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I feel like you're going to bring me back to earth a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm a little more skeptical. Kind of like you. I if you're buying in, I can see the vision. I get the optimism. But I'm just, some more numbers here real quick. 89th percentile overall points per possession, 44th spotting up, 91st in transition, 49th on cuts, 56 on offensive rebounds. Those are his main play types via our friends over at Synergy. And then when we look at the jumpers and some of the scoring, it gets a little ugly. 28th percentile overall on jump shots, where he's shooting just 27.5%, 28th percentile shooting off the catch, the 6th percentile shooting off the dribble, only 20 attempts, and then 86th percentile at the rim. So there's some really concerning numbers in there, and there are some really intriguing ones. And it's kind of which way is the wind blowing today? And if I squint hard enough, what kind of player comes to light? What do I see? Because I do think it is very blurry and unsure of what type of developmental route he's on. If, like you said, if he's just at the very start of that developmental curve and it's about to skyrocket and really take a leap going forward, he could easily be the steal of the draft. And if you're buying into him, like you said, in that top 10 range, that's what you have to believe. I'm a little more skeptical because I really worry about some of the physical tools. I love the length. I love the straight line ability when he gets out in the open court. Really interesting player, but there's not a whole lot of flexibility there. There's not a whole lot of wiggle. There's not a whole lot of strength. And he's one of these guys where the hips are incredibly high and he gets pushed around a lot. He is incredibly skinny. And I definitely don't think he can play 5 in the NBA. I think he's more of a 3-4. There were a couple games, especially early on, where Ulm tried to play him at the 5 and he just got abused on the boards. So it's like, okay, well, cool. That's out the window. So now we're thinking more 4-5, but then the shot's really going to have to come around. And there are stretches where it looks solid and then very long ones where it's like this is a mess. So I'm struggling at a certain point in that mid first. I think he makes a lot of sense. If I have 2 picks in the first round, I'm very excited about taking that type of swing. But if I only have 1, I think the situation is going to have to be really perfect.
Yeah, it's one of the. This is always what we do with evaluating and scouting. This, like, everyone knows ceilings. Everyone that does this, if you take this serious, you get to a player where you dance with the biggest debate, which is, do you swing upside or do you kind of play it a little safer? And at what point is the upside worth the swing with someone like Noa Essengue? I'm right there with you. If I had multiple picks, this would be one of my swings. It gets a little rich, but I think you could start the conversation with Brooklyn. It's one of those teams where, like, it might make sense if you love him that you have all those picks. Maybe you do swing. Toronto, we've mentioned a lot. I'm curious moving forward to see if we are really going to be up there with Noah. I still think maybe we're going to trend a little bit towards late lottery, but look, he's been around 11-5 all year. They play him about 20 minutes a game. Last year or the year before, I'm sorry for any international fact checkers out there, I'm going off of rep right now, but they won the title in their league and were basically bringing back their whole roster. So Noah was kind of trying to battle with a talented roster. Like Trevion Williams was on that team. Now Saraf's on the team. Like they've had some really good players. So they've kind of, before it was kind of like, hey, we're bringing you up, we're going to put you down. They were doing like the G League vibes, or like, we're going to go get you some reps. Now we're going to bring you back up to the senior team. This year, you're getting a little bit more playing time, but it's still just such a young talent that's raw, and physically you can tell it. I know he's got great size for everyone that's a fan. He's 200 pounds, skinny, and he's 18 years old. He's going to be, I think he's right there with Cooper, like one of the youngest guys in this class. So I love Noah. If you want Noah fan stock, you got to come through me. Like I love him, but I'm just being realistic with, like, we still got a long way to go with this developmental path.
So where are you at with his offensive role? Because I really like him in transition. I think he's one of the best in this class at those early leak outs where it's, the contest and then go. Gets a lot. I love him straight line when he has that runway. We see that out of like short roll situations in the half court, or when the ball swings to him on the weak side and he's able to attack gap help before they can rotate back over. I think when he has that runway where it's straight line A to B type of stuff, I think he's really good because those long strides allow him to eat up a ton of space. The at-rim finishing, I think, is really solid. And then even out of the short roll, there's some fun flashes of connective passing, some good cutting stuff as well. But against NBA defenses, those rotations are going to be a little different, and their closeouts aren't always going to be there. So I'm a little hesitant about how much of that stuff really pops back up in NBA context, and all of the stuff out of the short roll and rim running and cutting out of that and slip screens, all of that kind of stuff also predicates and kind of demands that he's with a 5-out system or playing with a floor spacing big. Otherwise he's just rolling into their space in the paint, or they're just going to be used as that type of guy anyway. So where are you at with his offensive role? Because that's where I'm probably getting the most hung up.
It's I don't know how to say this in a polite way, but it's the nicest thing I could. I'm saying it with all positivity when I say this. Every time I watch him, I don't think he knows. Like I think he's trying to figure it out still, and that's why I'm still buying in, because you see all these flashes, you see all this intrigue, and I think he's still trying to figure out. Like, it's almost like a late bloomer that grows so much, and when you're just like, oh, like, look at all the stuff I can do now. So I just think the productivity, the activity, like he's very active around the basket. I think he's kind of a garbage man right now that I think is trying to figure out the in-between game, and he makes hustle plays. He's constantly flying around. You can see the confidence comparison when it's him out in transition or him in the half court. Like transition, he looks like he just lights up like a kid of like, I know what to do here. Like, let's go. I think he got told, like, you got to get better as a shooter. So he's worked on that. it's trending the right direction. But now it's like you got to figure out your in between game. Like, what are you going to be? Are you going to be a Pascal Siakam that could also put guys in the post and try to shoot over them? Are you going to try to be physical and get downhill and use your length? I think that's the developmental stuff where I'm like, you have to be realistic. If you're a passionate fan base, you love Noah or an NBA team, I think you got to be like, we have to have a plan for this kid. And if the first plan doesn't work, we have to have an alternate route to go. Like there needs to be, what can we make it simple early on to develop some confidence? But it's just one of those, I see so much good things on tape with him, and I think he's still figuring it out. And that's where I get excited because I'm like, things click all of a sudden, this could get scary. But I'm right there with you. If it doesn't, what does this look like? So it's just a roll of the dice. It's
because these guys, the high end outcome is that Pascal Siakam type, where it's fringe all NBA all star type of guy. The problem, if it doesn't, it looks like Tijan Saloon and Kai Jones, and it's like, oh, like that. Okay, that doesn't work. But what's the middle ground between those archetypes? It seems to be kind of an archetype that's very boomer bust. I was on Josh Floyd's pod the other week, and he asked me about, he's like, is Essengue just this year's Tijan Saloon? And I push back. I'm not that far, because I think Noah's IQ and feel for the game on both ends of the floor is significantly higher right now. But when we kind of try and figure out, okay, if he's not hitting his 99th percentile outcome and turns into a fringe all NBA guy, and if he's not a complete bust, what does that look like? And that's where I get a little hung up, because we've covered the offensive end. Defensively, I think he's a smart team defender. I think there are flashes of on-ball stuff, but the physical limitations, I think he gets a little happy with his feet. The hip mobility isn't always great. And with that lack of lower body strength, guys can get lower than him and shrug him off pretty easily. So I just really struggle to figure out, and at least have a confident take in what that middle ground, that the most likely outcome for him, unfortunately, is.
The shot would need to come along.
Yeah.
A long way. The defense would need to come a long way. But like, is there a Nick Batum path here? So like, here's my thing with, you have this raw foundation, and this is what I always do when I'm evaluating guys, that I'm like, this is the upside swing. Like, this is the raw building block that you have to just program the right way. You can either try to make him an offensive guy where he can bully smaller guards and switch on them and hit, mid-range shots, I think, or you could be like, hey, can we get this super stretched out 3 and D? You need to develop the shot. He has to get bigger. I think the first thing is he just has to get bigger. You got to get him in a weight room.
And I think specifically lower body.
Lower body is because I just think with bigs, and I'm putting him in this conversation because of his size and his youth and everything. But like, bigs are so weird if they just click and things like, oh, this makes sense now. And you're like, why? I coached a kid once and I told him the same thing 50 times. And all of a sudden, the 51st time, he's like, oh, I know what you said. I'm like, why? I've been making it easier for you, and now you start doing it. You just see that with these guys and a lot of young players like this. So I feel like if things click for Noah, where like all of a sudden the body does start to fill out and you get him a little stronger, and maybe the defense starts sticking out. I just feel like there's opportunity where a lot of the roads could lead together, and you're like, oh gosh, everything's really getting on the same page in a hurry. Now you got to be patient though.
Yeah.
And that's something that not every organization is patient. We don't have a lot of Sam Presti doesn't have a lot. Yeah,
are not.
Sam Presti's ownership is the real hero, because they said, Sam, take all the time you want. The Wizards have that luxury right now because they're just like, just take your time, build a team that we're going to be proud of. Not a lot of owners are like, hey, yeah, I'm good with waiting for 3 years. They're usually like, okay, let's get going. We need the sales. So it's a tricky one, because I see the intrigue. I really would like to gamble. I've dug deep because I'm like, okay, give me intel. Like, if I'm investing in this kid, does everything check out? Everything's checked out. I heard he's got a little fight to him. It's like he's competitive. He's got that got some shit to his game. So I like what I've heard about Noah, but I completely understand why you're a little like, I don't know. The late international run's always scary. It's always really scary, but I've just been intrigued.
All right. Anything else on him, or you want to hop somewhere else?
Is there more positive defense that you're not hinting at, or is there more ugly? I feel like you kind of quickly shut that down because I was I really like some of the team awareness defensively for his age.
I like him as like the low man rotating over. I like him more as a team defender. The on-ball stuff I get a little more concerned with. I think he's fine, defending force.
Is it a young kid that's trying too hard? You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't think he has the flexibility in his hips and the footwork to defend like someone his size needs to. Now, as his core gets stronger, as his lower body gets stronger, I think some of that can be coached out, and he can get a better sense of what distances he can give guys with his length, because he doesn't need to get up right into them, like a 6'2" guard does. He's got a little more room for error, but he doesn't quite play like that yet. It's kind of similar how I talked about Wemby's defense coming in, where it's like, dude, you can cover the entire lane by yourself. You don't need to be within 6 inches of this guy. If he flies past you, that's fine. You can recover because you have the length and the size and the athleticism to do so. But he just gets a little too panicked almost, and that comes with youth and inexperience.
Yeah, right.
So but as like a low man roaming the baseline and rotating over from the weak side, scramble defense, help defensive rebounder, I like him in those situations a lot more.
Because I do think the motor is always running with him. I think he plays hard, so that's where I was just getting at. Because sometimes when I'm looking at that, at like the over aggressiveness, and I love how people are going to react to you saying Noah and Wemby defense in the same sentence, but I just get to a point where I'm like, hey, you just got to learn through that. Hopefully, a coach staff could fix that right away. What a day. I think we might have lost Metcalf, sports fans. Everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone in the chat. You guys got any questions, comments? See if we can get Metcalf back in here right away. Got a little internet just went out. Text from Metcalf. Great time. All right, yeah, we got a nice little comment here. The tickets to see their league finals. Gosh, I spent times overseas coaching, and basketball over there is unbelievable. So I'm very, very jealous of that. That atmosphere is always something I'm really jealous of. Oh, and you get to say maybe some Hugo. That's great. Yeah, Metcalf's a deep thought about that. RTC, we talked about the Lakers at the top of the show. It's just always eye-opening when you ever have a team like the Lakers that all of a sudden you're seeing new ownership. You always kind of assumed that was going to be with the buses there. So I think it's just kind of a wild, and 10 billion is a lot of cheese. So that's a good one. Waiting on Metcalf to get back in here, folks, and then we'll keep going. We've been talking about Noa Essengue. I'm a big fan. Let's see where I've got him. I think I've got him top 10 on my board. Yep, I've got him at 10 right now. But one that I'm going to try to see around about, because I know there's some fans around the league, and there's some that think that he's still going to go lottery. But it's just like, okay, well, who's gonna dance for it? Hey, let's see if we get Metcalf back in here. Unbelievably timing. Let's say we got Luka adds to that price tag. Probably $1 billion. Probably $1 billion. We've got some Traore talk coming up. Don't worry about it. Hopefully we'll still have some international fans after the Traore segment. That's probably one of my favorite references ever because I've seen this movie 800 times. But yeah, I'm having a good time. Not. The thing is I could go off rep, but I know once I get too deep down this rabbit hole, we're going to see. We've even got guys on no ceilings right now texting me. Shout out Steven, said, I can be there if you need me. Here we go. We get Metcalf back. Unbelievable. I'm going to make sure that the Garth Wayne's World comments up for Metcalf so he feels really bad. We're going to make him edit this after. Nathaniel, we'll talk about Toohey too. I like Toohey. Take a lap. Did you die again? Are you gone again? This is unbelievable.
This is incredible.
Oh my gosh, you're back.
Okay, Christ. Thanks, Xfinity. Awesome service.
Are you looking for your latest upgraded internet service? Please call our good folks at Xfinity. Please read the comment from Damn James because I literally felt like that. I was like, okay, I'm just pulling comments out of my butt right now. Randomly, he's alive.
All right. Well,
he's
sorry.
dead. Nothing. We're back. You're gonna have to edit that out. That was great.
Yeah, that'll be great for the pod.
Yeah, it'll be really good for the pod. Actually, that might be good to just put a bunch of ads there. We're good with Essengue. Where do you want to go?
Cool. You want to stick with his teammate or go somewhere else?
Let's stick with his teammate because I'm having a little bit of I need some help.
Okay. So Ben Saraf, point guard, 6'6" barefoot, 199 pounds, 6'8.75" wingspan. Just turned 19 in mid-April. Playing for Ulm. Really creative, dynamic, physical playmaker. What are you struggling with?
It's struggling in a good way. So I thought Ben Saraf was going to be 6'5". I think we're going to be at 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I do every single draft cycle. So I'm catching up on guys. I'm finally getting to a point where I'm like, all right, don't just go with your heart, go with your head. Every time I watch Saraf, I am like, I like him immediately. It's just like, yes, I'm in. I like him. David Aldridge's piece today is just stuck in my head where basically coaches were saying like Saraf is just ready to go to battle with anyone on the court. Like he feels like he's the best player on the court. He's got that dog in him mentality. I love those. Those are my favorite pieces. Shout out David Aldridge. He's pretty good at his job. But those are my favorite pieces of the year because of you get little dirts from the coach, the coaches and who's played against them, scouted them. Sometimes I don't always agree with them, but Saraf's was great where they were just like the dude just spitting venom. He's always ready to go to battle. So I have him and Yegor Demin pretty close on my board. And I'm getting a late rush of wondering if I should flip them.
Interesting. Okay.
Because Saraf, we're praising Demin for being 6'9"ish. 6'7"ish. It's not too far off. It's still, I'm very excited about that. And I just I think I know what he is. And I'm buying that, the competitive drive, the tools, the playmaking, for a lot of the reasons that I was buying in on Yegor. It's like, why shouldn't I be buying in on Ben? My boy, Ben. So am I crazy or what? Or am I getting a little late draft final chills? Or is this a Yegor problem?
Probably a little bit of all of it. As I ride the fence there and don't give you an actual answer. No, it's tough because I think when you think about the best playmakers in this class, I think him and Yegor are near the top of that list. And with that size, it's a real tool. I think a lot of it comes down to who are you more confident in their scoring capabilities. Because I think Yegor gets downhill a little more effectively than people like to give him credit for. Not a ton. Not saying he's Dylan Harper out there. But I think Saraf's a little more aggressive, a little more physical. and looks for his shot a little more, rightly or wrongly. With the outside jumper, I think I lean Yegor's. I buy the mechanics a little more. I think they're a little more consistent. I think he has a little better touch. And then defensively, I honestly think I lean Saraf. So it's really tricky because I like a lot of Saraf's game and his rim pressure is insanely fun. He gets downhill constantly, and his playmaking out of those situations, he's consistently manipulating and moving defenders with his eyes, looking off guys, adjusting multiple times midair. Really, really fun stuff. And then I think he's a really good rebounder and cutter at that size too. So I think the defensive concerns with him are a little overblown, but there's some really fun stuff with him on offense.
The problem is if one of these guys was consistent, I feel like it'd be very easy. Mm-hmm. But they're both inconsistent guys. You get Saraf for 4 games and you may, oh man, this looks like a lottery pick, just like he can put up some numbers and then he cools off and you're like, oh. But I like Saraf a lot. I wanted to focus more on just Saraf. Like I really like the playmaking. I think he's competitive. I think he battles. I don't know how you feel, Metcalf, but I feel like with him, I'm not overly worried about like the outside shot, like the 3-point shot needing to be like, oh, we have to unlock this for Saraf to be good. Like I feel like it's just the in-between game needs to come around more consistent because I do think he's really smart and has a good feel and plays with good pace. Yes, I'd like the outside shot to be better, but he's just one of those guys every time I turn on the tape, man, I like the way he plays. He battles. So really interested to kind of hear or see where he goes on draft night, because I know some scouts were still thinking he's top 20, but I'm like, well, we can't have 25 players go in the top 20, guys. That's not how the draft works. So,
but what if we could? God damn it. Yeah. So, and just to kind of further highlight some of the scoring concerns via our friends at Synergy, 43rd percentile in scoring as a pick and roll ball handler, 49th in isolation, 36th percentile in transition, 58th percentile spotting up. A lot of those come in like attacking closeouts, but the shot off the catch is significantly better than off the bounce. 31st percentile overall on jumpers, 72nd percentile shooting off the catch at 38%, and 37.7% from 3. And then the 31st percentile shooting off the bounce, 48th percentile at the rim. So
he's averaging 12, 3.6, and 3.8 in his last 10 games on 42, 28, 88. And you're like, oh, that's not bad. And then you go to the last 5 games and it's 9, 4, and almost 3 on 34, 12, 78.
Yeah.
The Ben Saraf experience. Because like the previous 5, you're like, oh, he's going to end the year on a heater. Here we go. And then all of a sudden it's just a roller coaster. So that's where I get in my head, because I'm like, oh gosh, but they keep winning, or they kept winning. I don't know.
I really struggle with this scoring game because the shots all over the place. And sometimes when he misses, it's bad. But then you watch him attack closeouts and get downhill and push in transition. And kind of similar to Noah, where the A to B is really, really good. And Saraf has a little more wiggle, but not quite as much as you would hope for from your lead guard. A lot of it is more so bully ball almost, and physicality, and he'll throw in some euros here and there. But it's a lot of decel and getting back to his left hand. He doesn't have a right hand around the rim. But as much fun as it is right now, I do worry about how consistently and how reliably that translates to the next level.
Yeah. I get any doubts. I get any concerns. I still think like I would love to get him in the 20s, because I think that you can get a really good floor general if you can unlock some consistency with the shot and the scoring, you've got something. But I don't know. It's just one that's puzzled me Saraf's been puzzling me for months because I just always feel I'm too low. But the shot
And
numbers
I
don't
hate
lie
being like,
sometimes.
oh, but what about the shot? Well, if you're gonna have the ball in your hands all the time, it's nearly impossible to be a primary guard with the ball in your hands a lot if you're not going to shoot. And if you're not shooting, that really derails a lot of the playmaking and rim pressure stuff from him because everything with a screen, defenders going under, closeouts are short. Instead of rotating up, they're just rotating over and giving you that extra space and then contesting late on stuff when you do shoot. So it just completely shifts what he is as a player and where his impact comes from on the offensive end. But if though that spot up number, if that number shooting off the catch persists throughout his career and he's in that high 30s, near 40% shooting off the catch, then I think it gets really interesting, especially when we look at teams in the 20s, like a New Orleans, where say they go ace or someone at 7 or with their first pick, say ace falls to them, or they don't go Fears or Caspers or something like that with their first pick, and then they take Saraf at 23 to pair alongside some of those other like wing creators like Zion and Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, and then he can play off of them while also, setting them up and making life easier for them. I think it's really going to be situational dependent where there are a lot of teams in those 20s where I'm like, he doesn't make any sense, but you go to the right spot. That's the case with a lot of these guys, but especially him, you go to the right spot and I get a little more excited.
What's the right spot for you?
In terms of team or
just
range?
Team. Like, give me a couple that you're thinking.
I'm
at the point of the draft cycle where anyone that I'm like questionable about, I'm
like
convinced.
Utah at 21. I like if they got one of VJ or Trey at 5 or Khan at 5, I think that'd be really interesting. Because then you get that more floor general who can then play off of Laurie and Trey and Keontae and Sexton as well, and then also just be that floor general. So a team like that, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think Miami would make a lot of sense. It's a little early, but I mean, you get into the late first even. I don't think he makes a ton of sense on OKC. I think he's really similar to AJ Mitchell.
Yeah, I love AJ Mitchell.
Yeah,
I love AJ Mitchell. Makes no sense. And they got Topic. It wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Atlanta maybe is solid, and then Brooklyn just because they're kind of a blank slate. So
I've tried to talk myself into any prospect that I'm questionable right now. Could they fit in Boston? Because I still have PTSD from Stevens taking Jordan Walsh. So I'm kind of trying to be open-minded about everyone this year, preparing for the Noah Penda thing to happen.
I think the Clippers at 30 would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because that's where Intel comes in. And if Intel comes in, then he is just one of those dogs, which I love. I just love that curveball about Saraf, just being like, I'm not going to be afraid of anyone. That makes a lot of sense with that roster. So I don't know. He's one of those puzzling ones. And I think that's where I'm puzzled with him as a prospect. Because I'm like, where does this fit? It's a really good floor general with size. It's just, where do you take that if you're not convinced it's coming around? So I don't know.
And then finally on the defensive end, I'm a little more optimistic than others seem to be. I really like the defensive playmaking. I think he's super disruptive, but there are a lot of inconsistencies with how much he can overhelp and over-rotate, gets a little handsy, fouls a little too much, can get happy feet at times. But when he finds that groove and he's pairing the disruptiveness with the on-ball hands and jumping passing lanes with the solid footwork and the size and the physicality, I think there's some really, really fun defensive upside with him. I don't think he's nearly as bad of a defender as most people make him out to be.
Yeah, I get the same vibes with him. I don't think you can't have him on the court type of stuff. Yeah. I also just think he battles. Like he'll want to be coached. He'll want to get better. It's just funny. You brought up the synergy numbers earlier, but just like I was looking at him again, and it's just like from someone that you think can't shoot, looking at his catch and shoot numbers and stuff like that, you're like, these don't match.
Yeah.
But it is just maybe he can be a little bit more effective as like a catch and shoot guy, or maybe it's something you got to tinker with off the dribble or something. But I don't know.
I do think part of that comes down to like shot selection and space creation on ball too, where I don't think he's a super dynamic ball handler, and he's not great at creating space for himself, which then leads to some ill-advised shots and some clunky attempts. But when the ball swings to him, when he's playing off ball and he's wide open in the corner or on the elbow, it's a little easier for him to knock those down.
Absolutely. What else? Next.
Let's move on to Joan Beringer, playing for Olympia out of Slovenia, turns 19 in mid-November, measured in at 6'11" barefoot, which is massive, 235 pounds, 7 foot 4.5-inch wingspan, one of the bigger risers throughout the year, I would say, and especially late here. Where do you want to start with them?
The problem is you know how I feel about a lot of these guys. So I need to hear what was you did your final homework assignment of the year. You went overseas, you traveled abroad, and you got an education. What did you come back? What did you learn? So what do you think of Mr. Beringer? I'm going to pronounce it both ways so that
Just
the international audience on YouTube can't get mad at us, but we're also still Americanized.
There's like some really scary defensive potential with him. And I think a pretty safe floor with the athletic tools, the rebounding, the rim running. I like his hands. He also has no idea what he's doing a lot of the time. And it's almost like he's only been playing for 3 or 4 years.
I love him.
Yeah.
Now, if you were let's put it this way. I'm a GM. We did the GM modes. So if you were an assistant GM and you brought me a 6'11" athletic big and you're like, he's only been playing for 3 years, I've been like, why are we going to draft him then? Like, that would be probably my first reaction. And then if you showed me this type of foundation from someone that's only been playing the game that little amount, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like a couple years from now, this is probably going top 10 if he keeps trending this way. So there's a lot of questions.
Yes.
How quickly is this going to be ready? How much time do we need to be patient? Is it going to be ready?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's incredible to get excited about. Oh my God, think about what he could be. It's like, we do that a lot with some of these guys too, and they never pan out into anything, unfortunately. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Beringer, but it's definitely a possibility.
Definitely. I can't comprehend like how insane you start playing basketball and 3 years later it's like, are you ready to go to the NBA? Like, I just can't process that. That's ridiculous. But it's also like, when I watch him and you see there is some growing pain stuff where you're like, you look very raw.
Yeah.
But when you see the highs, you're like, oh my goodness. And it's especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like, there's some defensive stuff where I'm like, one, you shouldn't be able to process this quickly with only playing basketball for this little amount of time. Two, if you can do that and it's going to get better, you have scary stuff defensively with your size, your motor. I just love the motor. He plays like every possession is his last. And I'm like, I will buy that. I'll get into that easily. He runs the floor like a gazelle. You could see why he was a soccer player his whole life. For everyone that doesn't know, soccer player his whole life, got to a point where he couldn't find cleats the sizes. He's like, I can't find cleats anymore that are my size. And his friends were like, please try basketball. He finally tried basketball and he's like, I love the game. So it's hilarious. But you can see when he runs the court, it's like he looks like a soccer player out there because he's just so fluid, which a 6'11" soccer player is terrifying. But
yeah, just throw him in goal. No one's scoring.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, Metcalf. I'm just, this would be my swing if I wanted a big of like, hey, we can be patient and reap the benefits in 2 years. The problem is I just don't know where to put him. That's like, hey, we'll be patient. Like I've tried to do the Spurs talk with that second pick. I've tried to do the OKC. I just don't know who's swinging.
Yeah, and I think he makes a lot of sense in Atlanta if they can't get Malawach. The tricky thing there is that
Wizards.
They might have to take him at 13 instead of 22. The way things are trending, which might be a little rich. I think the Wizards make sense. I think Brooklyn at 19 can make some sense. I think Minnesota maybe at 17 could make some sense. There are a lot of places that could make sense, especially if you buy into the intangibles and you're really encouraged about what it could look like in 2 years, because there are some real flashes of him sitting down in the stands and switching and rotating back and protecting the rim and covering a ton of ground, being super disciplined and disruptive. But then unfortunately, a couple possessions later, has a narrow base, he's high in the stands, and he's getting totally torched in space, as you would expect someone that size to do. But if you're buying into the foundation and what you can build that up into, there's some very, very, very real tools, and a pretty simple archetype that consistently translates to the NBA in terms of rim running, rim protection, rebounding. I like his hands. I think he catches a lot. He's a really effective finisher around the rim. That's all I'm expecting from him on offense. I don't think there's much of any ball skills. I'd be shocked if he ever shoots it. But I also don't think he needs to, because 90% of his value is going to come on the defensive end. And if a coaching staff really drills down into those fundamentals and making that the norm instead of just flashes, then we're talking about a guy who could be a cornerstone of a NBA team's defense.
So what did you have the measurements in front of you? What was his weight? It's like 230s, right?
235.
I mean, he'll turn 19 in November.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be 6'11", or he's going to be 7 foot. He was 6'11" barefoot, right? 235. So we're talking, and he's a pogo stick out there. So like we could potentially have a 7-footer that runs the floor like a wing. He's bouncy. I think he's got good hands for work. I'll summarize what you said quickly. He does stuff on the court you shouldn't be able to do. Like he should not be able to do some of the stuff when it comes to getting in his stance, sliding his feet, moving that quick. It's like you shouldn't be able to do this. But it does go back to like the hat tip to, playing soccer, football, if you want to put it that way, for the international crowd. I just really think like that there's a higher floor with him, I think, than we realize. Like we're all saying like, well, he's only been playing basketball for 3 years. Yes. And look what he is right now. So like I think he knows what he is too. Like play hard, rebound, block shots, dunk everything that exists in your vicinity. I think that's what he does. His last 10 games, he was around 7 and 6 in 22 minutes with a block and a half a game and 74% from the field. Like, great. I think that's a great place to start, and you just keep getting better. And you're right. He might be your defensive anchor in a couple of years that you're just like, oh man, they got Beringer back there. Like, I just think this is the one where if I had 2 picks, I'd want to get one of my guys early. Like Washington, if you hit on your guy, like you just, whoever you get at 6 years, like, heck yeah, he was first and second name on our board. I'd go get Beringer. Because I'd be like, what the heck are you going to, like, just play him. Do what you just did with your young guys. Let them get reps. And then all of a sudden in a couple of years, we might be like, oh gosh, Washington's turning into a bit of a beast. So I don't know. I like him, Metcalf.
I think it's pretty, or I don't want to say pretty reasonable because he was very good as a rookie. But I wouldn't be shocked if he had an Yves Missy type of rookie season. Just the way he moves, the energy he plays with, really simple again, I don't mean to undermine that what Missy did by calling it a simple responsibility level, but you have your role, you have your responsibilities, and you execute them, and you lean on your physical tools, your energy, and your work rate, and you produce winning basketball. So it wouldn't shock me if we see that type of impact from him early on.
Would it shock me if he somehow plays at Summer League and we're like, oh my gosh, Beringer rocks? And it wouldn't shock me if we're like, we got a long way to go. Like it just 3 years of basketball. It wouldn't shock me either way. But I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains early on, but I think there's going to be moments where you're like, oh my goodness, look at this. And I think that's where a team would be smart. Draft him, make it simple early. Just keep making it simple. Don't give him too much early on. Like, just let him keep getting better, and you might be shocked in a couple of years of what you got.
Let's move on to Hugo Gonzalez, the wing from Real Madrid, turned 19 in February, measured in at 6'6" and a quarter, 223 pounds, with a 6'10" and 3/4 inch wingspan. I think the starting point with Hugo is incredible measurements for him. Really good athlete, very exciting defender, and big old question mark on offense.
Where are you at? Talk to me. We started the Hugo Gonzalez fan club back in the day. We're really excited. So I want to hear what you got about Hugo. Or do you want me to read off the roster for everyone that needs a refresher? Because I pulled it up.
Yeah, good.
Okay, here we go.
Why don't you, just so people can get a little more context on why he's getting like 8 minutes a game?
Yeah, so let's get the official stats up here so people don't think we're, oh my gosh, there's a mock draft that has him going to the Celtics. I will cry. He's playing 11.2 minutes per game, averaging an eye-opening 3.6 points and 1.9 rebounds. So everyone's going to hear that and be like, well, if he's so good, how come he can't play? Well, this is why. Here's some of the players on their roster. Facundo Campazzo. Yes, you remember him. He was on the Nuggets, the little guy that is an unbelievable playmaker. Mario Hezonja, Izan Musa, Gabriel Deck. A lot of the international crowd should know who that is. Bruno Fernando, Serge Ibaka, Usman Garuba, Walter Tavares. Shout out Atlanta Hawks legend. Who else am I missing? I'm going to probably not name some big names that are like EuroLeague studs, but Metcalf, am I missing anyone? City Gaze over there. The roster is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're loaded.
There's a ton of, is Real Madrid. Like, he is playing with a bunch of guys that were in the NBA. He's just turned 19?
Yes.
Yes. February,
yes.
So getting 11 minutes with that roster is ridiculous. It's a tough one. This is a really tough one because I'm like everybody else. You go, how much can I put into this year's film? You can't put a ton. So you have to go back. And if you go back, Hugo has some really impressive stuff. But where do you take that? How do you feel? You got to feel comfortable with your pre-evaluations from this year. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, and aside from the minutes, even when we look at the numbers, it's even trickier because 37.6% of his possessions came in spot-up situations, and he ranked in the 25th percentile. His next most frequent was 15th percentile in transition. And it's like you want us to take to use a first-rounder on an off-ball wing who's in the 25th percentile spotting up? Like, are you out of your mind? But my counter to that is that he's not that type of player. It's very reminiscent to me of how the Wizards used Denny early in his career, where they put him in the corner and had him spotting up all the time, despite the fact that he wasn't a good shooter. And they were pigeonholing him into a role that he wasn't suited for. When Hugo, before this year, when he was getting all this hype and acclaim and intrigue through FIBA play, it was because he had the ball in his hands. It was because he was attacking the rim, creating out of the pick and roll. Not necessarily as that primary point guard, but pushing in transition and using his athletic tools to get downhill and to create for others, because he is a smart passer. He is an intriguing passer. This year, he ranked in the 81st percentile as a pick and roll ball handler, but unfortunately only 14% of his possessions came in those situations. So it's a low volume, but it's what he's historically done and where he's found his success. And when we look at the film while at Real, he's at his best and he looks incredible when he's getting downhill and attacking and slashing, and whether it's out of a pick and roll or attacking a closeout or just out of isolation, his rim pressure, his slashing is really, really fun. The finishing craft, once he gets there, needs to improve a little bit. But he was drawing a bunch of fouls. I think the shot has looked a little more comfortable as the season's progressed. Still needs a lot of work. But when you pair that rim pressure in an off-ball role and maybe give him a little more secondary creation responsibilities or opportunities, that's where I think you get the most out of him. Especially given how good his defense has looked, despite how little he's been allowed to do on offense.
Hugo, if for the sickos out there, like, you're gonna refresh your memory about how he looked a couple years ago, Next Generation Tournament, Real Madrid with U18, he averaged about 17 and a half, 6.5 rebounds and 3.8 assists, but it takes like 5 minutes to be like, oh my gosh, I love how he plays. Maybe less than that, because he's one of those like flies out of nowhere for a tip dunk and is screaming at the top of his lungs. Like, he plays like a prick in a good way where you're just like, oh, I'm in. I love him. He's a slasher. The reason why I love the measurements coming out is because I was like, he's bouncy and now he's bigger than I thought. So I'm like you. I wonder, and I wanted to ask you this. Do we think it was, and this is why I dream of the day when I can just be like, hey, I'm going to go overseas to scout Hugo. Thanks. Because I would have loved to see him in practice against all those guys. But do you think this was a Real Madrid developmental goal of putting him off the ball? Because that's what keeps me up. I'm like, was there a clear emphasis of, we're going to work on you as an off-ball guy to kind of get you more versatile? Because they had to look at the roster and be like, you're not going to play.
I don't think so. I think it was probably more so, you're 18 and look at our roster. You're lucky you're getting the minutes you are. And probably, honestly, unfortunately, a little bit of, man, it'd be a real bummer if your draft stock tanked and you had to come back for next year.
No, you're probably right. You're probably right.
That happens a lot overseas.
It happens way more than we realize.
Those teams and those coaches don't give a fuck about losing their guys to the NBA, and they enjoy some of the buyouts that they receive. But a team like Real isn't concerned about that as much. So
probably more worried about the NCAA. I get it. I really like him. We just said this about Beringer. If I had two picks, Hugo would be very hard to not draft.
Yeah,
with one of the later ones, because I do think the worry is the Denny thing is you bring up. Like, if someone thinks like, oh, well, we'll just put him in the corner, you're not going to get the best Hugo.
No.
But if you let him do his thing, you might be shocked at like kind of how much havoc he can cause in a good way for your team. Like, he's just kind of a fan of anarchy. I feel like Hugo just flies out of nowhere. He talks shit. He's a fun player to root for, but it just, middle of the year, I asked a team and they said, I have him lottery. I was like, well, that tells me something. Like, they're still fans. So I don't know. What else you got? Anything?
No. Let's move on to Nolan Traore. Which
do we have to?
We do. Okay.
I'm kidding. We had some fans asking for some Traore, so I said we'll try to keep it positive because we like the international crowd.
So 6'3" point guard with a 6'8" wingspan, playing for St. Quentin over in France, turned 19 at the end of May. Really up and down season. Where are you at with him?
Trended the wrong way, Bob.
Yeah.
Where can we try to be upbeat about it first?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Of course.
So his last 5 games we are at, and this is the good folks at Real GM, just a real treat. Last 5 games, he's got 22 minutes. He's averaging 16.4 points, 2.2 rebounds, 4.4 assists on shooting splits of 45, 38, 64. If you stretch that out to 10, it's 13.8 points, 1.9 rebounds, 5 assists, and shooting splits of 41, 42, 71. Here's my thing with Traore. Every time I watch him, and I'm kind of like, all right, God, I might see it. I think I get it. I can't get over the hump of like the next level of excitement to be like, it's clear. I feel like just the needle just gets to that point where I'm like, okay, let's go back. And then I'll do, because this has bugged me all year, because I'll do like his game splits and I'll punch in all the numbers manually because I'm a psychopath. And I'm like, is it as good as I'm seeing? And then I do it. I'm like, the numbers are always the same or disappointing to me. And I'm like, ugh. Like I just read those splits. And I'm like, those are solid, but I'm like, I'm getting excited about 12 and 5, so I don't know, Metcalf. I don't. Did you read Aldridge's thing today? I have to quote it one more time because this was the most important thing I thought I read from the whole Aldridge thing, and it was about Traore. And I sat and thought about it for a while, and he was saying an executive said people don't realize what he had to deal with this year. He had the Hoop Summit where everyone was buzzing about him after the game he had.
Mm-hmm.
Right away goes back overseas, and he has to try to qualify for the Olympic team. And it was like he was all in. Like that's all he wanted. He was just crazy, like giving it everything he had. And the exec was like, he wasn't going to make it because of numbers. So he goes all in. He's trying to make it, doesn't make it. He's crushed. Immediately gets signed to St. Quentin. He has to go play right away. And they said he was just like furious for like the first couple games. He was just so pissed off he didn't make the team. So he was just on fire. And he just hit a wall of exhaustion because he's like, he had no summer. He was just constant hoops. So I was like, it's really important to remember that. And you kind of could see it with when he hit that wall in the season when we were all like, man, Traore's struggling. And then now he started to play better. But I just feel like I'm always wanting more. And I feel bad saying this, but every time I watch him, I'm like, this is a really good backup.
Yeah, no, that's
a really, exactly. Really good backup. And people are going to think that's such an insult. And I'm like, no, it's not. He could play 10 plus years at the NBA level and be a very, very good change of pace guard. I just don't see the star.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't see star or lottery, honestly.
Then there's teams that still love him. I need to put that out for everyone. Like we're down on him. There's still teams that love him a lot. More than we would probably be ready for, but it's a tough one for me.
So I'll stay positive.
Yeah.
Before I get negative. I love the pace and the speed that he plays at. He is incredibly quick. And when he gets outlets or defensive rebounds, he's immediately going. He's immediately getting in transition. And even if it's not just a clear transition bucket, it's all right. It took 2-3 seconds and we're over half court. And now we're in our early offense and we're getting something going. Here's an early, double drag or pick and roll or something. And we're getting an early look, not really letting the defense get settled. And I love the speed that he plays at. That's a really important skill. And it's something that he's done all year. The effectiveness is come and gone, but that mentality, that decisiveness, that speed has always been there. And it also shows up in the half court situations where he's able to get downhill and get to the rim. The finishing has been a little inconsistent. 0 left hand. Basically the opposite of Saraf, where Saraf has no right hand, Traore has no left hand. But all of that is predicated on his pace. And obviously that'll be a little more difficult against NBA defenders. But I think doing that as much as he already is really important. And then when we look at some of his play type distribution, 63rd percentile in scoring as a pick and roll ball handler. When we add in passes, 69th percentile. Really encouraging numbers, especially since 50% of his possessions are coming as that pick and roll ball handler. That frequency ranks in the 97th percentile. So he's getting a ton of reps running the offense and running pick and roll specifically. I think that's really important for the long run. Unfortunately, I think all of his passes and his processing speed are way too slow. He doesn't pass guys open. I wouldn't classify him as a good playmaker. I think he's a decent passer, but it's all predetermined. Everything he does, it's either, all right, as this play develops, I don't care really what happens. I'm making the skip pass to the guy in the corner. Or no matter how the drop defender, whether they're in full drop or they step to me at the last second, I'm throwing a lob to the roller. Doesn't matter if they switch it. Doesn't matter if he's covered. It's going there. When he finds open guys, it's typically he waits until they're open. And he's an accurate passer, but he's not leading guys to the rim. He's not manipulating defenders. He's not moving defenders. And that stuff really worries me. And I think, it's fine that ball security is important, but it also puts a cap on what type of point guard he's going to be. Like you said, it screams backup point guard to me.
You can have a heck of a career as a backup point guard. So everyone's going to hear this. And I have to get this off my chest because it drives me really crazy throughout the draft cycle, and especially this month. I'm not hating on Traore because he plays overseas. So international crowd, if you're going to try to throw that at me, get a new lane. If you played at Kentucky and played this way, I'd feel the exact same way. You have to be a point guard. You got to do a lot of things at the NBA level. And Traore's weaknesses in my eyes are very loud weaknesses: shooting, turnovers, and defense. Those are really loud. If you're struggling in those areas, those are really tough. It's like, okay, so what are you bringing to the table? I don't mean to laugh, but it's like, I think he gets a little upright with his defense. I think guys can get by him pretty quick. The turnovers, like the playmaking, solid, but it just can get really erratic. The second half of the year is much better. The second half is much better, I think. But the first half of the year was also really bad. So it's like, I hope it was better. But you started to see in the second half a little bit more juice. I think a little bit more certainty with his decision making on the attack when it came to like trying to create, finish. There was some stuff I was like, I really like this.
He shied away from contact a lot less the second half of the year too.
Yeah, right. And he's so fast.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable how quickly he can put the boosters on and just you're gone. Like, see ya. There's just so many questions I have. And it's tough because when we saw him at Hoop Summit in practices, I was like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
I liked him at Hoop Summit.
And you guys all liked him. And I was like, I don't see it. And then that big game happened and I was like, got it. Okay. This one's going to be tough this year. Like this one's going to be tough. And I've been open-minded, but it just kind of, it screams change of pace guard to me that like you hope maybe turns into a really solid piece that is a smart player that you can, after he develops, like he's finishing games maybe, but I just don't see like handing him the keys early on. And I want to be wrong because if I'm wrong, I'm going to learn a lot from this evaluation, but it's just a tough one for me personally.
And like the speed is awesome, but everything he does is predicated off that speed. Even on the defensive end, and the fundamentals aren't that good. Like he's really slow first step defending drives, and then he panics and turns his hips to like turn and chase really effortlessly. So it's super easy to bump him off. I mean, we're in these finals, we're seeing SGA, Jalen Williams, TJ McConnell lower their shoulder and create space in the mid-range on defenders. Guys are going to be able to do that to him constantly because of how easily he's turning his hips, or even just a simple stop on a dime and pull up on 15 for a 15-foot jumper. He's flying by. So for how fast he is, he doesn't use it all that great on the defensive end. And on offense, it's going to be a lot more difficult to consistently do that against NBA defenders. So I'm more encouraged by how the shot has looked down the stretch, especially off the catch. Similar to what we were talking about with Saraf, I think there are real routes where he can play off of guys a little more and be at least effective as a spot up guy off the catch. But if he's my lone first round pick, I'm going to be really, really, really nervous.
Yeah, unless you're a team like Boston, where you're just like, let's just let him be patient. And also, I just like Denver, if they had teams like that where you're just like, you're going to figure out real quick what you can do at camp. Like you're going to be tested immediately. So we're going to see what you got. But I get Traore at some point with the value, with the swing. If you buy that, you can unlock it more consistently and limit the turnovers and the shot. I get it. It's just a tough one for me. It really is, because I've been coming into the year. He was one of the guys I had circled. Like, this is going to take me down to the wire. I know I'm going to have to be very patient with Traore. And right now, I'm just like, I'm trending towards like, this is a change of pace guard for me. And I want to be wrong, because I'm dead serious. Like, I'm going to learn a lot from this evaluation and be like, okay, what did I miss here?
Yeah, it's but that archetype still has a lot of value. Still has really good careers. It's just not what we're thinking of the first month of his season. So,
yeah.
All right. Moving on to Noah Penda, playing for Le Mans, measured in at 6'7" and a quarter, 242 pounds tank with a 6'11" and a half inch wingspan, turned 20 in January. Talk to me about Penda.
Here's what we're going to do. I know how you feel about Penda.
I came around.
Okay. I have a real fear right now. And my fear is that with the 28th pick, the Boston Celtics are going to take Noah Penda.
Oh.
So, because it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world, but it's just not the fun thing that I can get really like jazzed up about. Can you try to spin it positively for me right now? I'm basically doing this because I know it's going to be hard for you. So can you try to positively give me some life of like, hey, you know what? I should be excited if he's the pick there. I want to be upbeat about any pick. But I'm struggling here.
So the guy's a load and great physical tools. He's really big and a lot of potential offensive versatility, really good rebounder. Some interesting passing stuff when the shot's falling. It looks good. And when he can draw those closeouts, I think he's really good attacking closeouts, getting downhill. I like some of his slashing game. Plays really physical on both ends of the floor. Some really intriguing defensive playmaking stuff, jumping passing lanes, rotating as a weak side rim protector. But the big selling point with him is if you're buying into the shot and you think that improves to league average or slightly above, there's a lot of slashing and playmaking from opportunities that can stem off of that from an off-ball role. How'd I do?
Pretty good. I'm kind of intrigued. Is he PJ Tucker?
The
role, not the player. The role.
Yeah.
3 inches taller with that went to the buffet.
I think he's.
Our draft guide had him compared to Wilson Chandler, Marvin Williams, DeMarre Carroll, and I was like, "Can you give me one more little bit higher guy?" And I liked Wilson Chandler a lot. Okay.
The comps I have down for him are like Jake LaRavia and Chris Murray, who are fine players.
Murray would be unbelievable if he just made half the shots he's been attempting.
Yeah. Or third.
The game we went to, I was like, oh my gosh, Murray'd have 35 if he just made half these shots.
Yeah. Scoot would have had a 30-20 game.
Yeah, I would have been unbelievable. I Penda seems like if we didn't have all of these trades in the 20 to 30 range with like teams that are still trying to kind of rebuild and retool, whatever you want to put, I feel like Penda would have been going in that range 100% because every playoff team would have been like, we love Penda. Penda's perfect. We need this. We need this in the rotation. So I get it. I get the sell of the defensive ability, the awareness. I guess I feel like I've heard the defense is that special. I've heard the defense is
I kind of
okay.
hate the defense.
You hate it.
I think it's more bad than good.
I wanted to hear you vent because I had to run an errand and I didn't get to catch up on Penda today. So I'm literally going to watch Penda tonight because I'm telling you, I'm getting ready for any pick. And the Celtics are going to trade both picks. But I'm getting ready because I'm just puzzled with him too. I need to watch more.
I think the defensive consistency is really bad. Screen navigation is rough. The footwork is sloppy and slow. I think the handle's inconsistent, whereas like some games, the slashing and the ability to get downhill through traffic and shrug off defenders looks really good. Other times he's fumbling it off his feet and knees pretty consistently and losing it on simple dig attempts by help defenders. I don't really buy the shot. It looks like he doesn't get really any elevation and shoots kind of a flat ball. I think he's relatively a smart player, and that's what pops up on the defensive end as a low man and rotating from the weak side. But when he's put in on-ball situations, I think he just gets exposed too consistently. So my big thing with him is if he was 18 and looked like this, I'd be much more intrigued. The problem is when he was 18 and we watched him, he looked just like this.
Yeah. So
it just feels like the same player that we saw 2-3 years ago.
He worked out for teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at the workout tracker. So teams usually are, they're not expecting you to all of a sudden just go from, what you were at the workout to, oh my gosh, now he has a 45-inch vertical and takes people off the bounce. Like I just feel like Penda, I kind of feel like I'd like to get him at 35-ish, like 40-ish.
Yeah, like that's early second round is exactly where I have him. And kind of like you mentioned, like some of these teams in the 20s who traded away their pick, I think he would make a lot of sense on. Like I think he would make sense on New York and Denver. But they're not there. So just not my cup of tea. All right. We can fire through the rest of these a little quicker.
I didn't think we were going to go an hour. But we also had, okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Xfinity.
We had Doomsday Protocol.
Yeah. Okay. Bogoljub Markovic, 6'10 and a half, 213 pounds, 6'11 and a half inch wingspan, turned 19 just like 6 days ago on July 12th. Happy birthday. Plays for Mega from Serbia. I really, really like him. He's kind of in that same fringe first round range for me. I think he has a lot of shit to his game, and I like his frame once he gets stronger. I think he's going to be much more effective as a rim protector, but I think he's a smart player, really versatile on offense, really good slasher, really good game downhill. And then in like those short roll situations, there's a lot of upside and versatility.
We've talked about him a lot on previous, of just me personally. I did complete 180. I saw him at Hoop Summit, the first practice. I said, This is literally Poku 2.0. This is Poku. We're going to do Poku experience again. And I was just like, I'm out. Nope. And then the second practice, I said, oh my gosh, I'm in. I usually don't flip that quick, but I was like, oh man, he's got some stuff to his game. He's versatile. He plays his butt off. He's wanting to be coached. He was kind of messing around with teammates, like just keeping him upbeat. I like Bogey a lot. Yeah. I think I've got him in my first round now. So I
have him.
I'm intrigued.
Exactly.
I have him right there. Moved him up today. Felt really good about it, actually. Thought he would have been proud. So one of those that you just, the more you watch, you're just like, oh, very skilled.
You pick up a lot more on like the little things he does, which is crucial for him. Cause like, he's not going to be like a cornerstone or franchise changer. I wouldn't expect, you never know, but I think he helps. I think he really raises the floor of a rotation and can help contribute to winning basketball. And just a lot of the intangibles in terms of communication, work rate, coachability.
His tape's fun,
being a
Metcalf.
teammate.
His tape's fun.
Impressive. Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where we got back from Hoosum and I was like, okay, I'm very much intrigued. I'm moving him up. Like I'm in with him. Then I went back and watched his tape. I was like, oh, there's some fun shit here. Like he slams on people. He's got emphatic rejections. The pick and pop. It's just good, consistent fundamentals. Like with his shot, where I'm like, okay, he's balanced. He doesn't rush it. I think he knows his game. And then there's some playmaking stuff that you're like, oh, there's some shit here. So I like Bogey a lot. I'm fascinated to see where he ends up because I think he's a really fun wrinkle for a team.
I think Hoop Summit was huge for him. Based on the NBA people I talked to, they were like, yeah, go like from day one to the end of the week. It was like, first day it's like, oh, what do you think of Bogey? It's like, he's fine.
Yeah.
And then the Sunday it's like, he's probably guaranteed himself top 40 minimum.
It was so bad. Everyone's like, he's in. He's in this one. So I'm fascinated to kind of hear what the buzz is with him.
Someone else where there's fascinating buzz. 7'1" center from China, 253 pounds, 7'2" and 3/4 wingspan. Turned 19 at the end of June. Hansen Yang.
The Yang Dynasty. Everybody waited an hour and 20 minutes. we'll cut that out because of the Xfinity shout out. Yang, man, I have no idea what to do with him. No idea.
His highlight tape rocks. Everything that comes in between those, I'm a lot more skeptical on.
Really worried about the defense.
We're like really, 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 really worried.
Like everyone can go look. I think he leads the class in blocks per game at 2.7. I understand.
Now go
I understand.
We'll
turn on tape.
Go watch a game and see who he's playing.
I first watched Hansen last year when everyone was like, "Oh, he's a first round." I was like, "No, he's not." And then at Summer League came across, and he was playing in the California Classic. I was like, "Heck yeah! Like, let's see what you can do." And it was like against like the Spurs, and I think the Heat were in it, or maybe last year they weren't, but whatever. And the China team was in it.
It was the Hornets, and Jake Stevens gave him the business.
Yes. And I was like, oh, he's really fun. Every time he's on offense, I was like, okay, I'm excited. Every time I'm on defense, I was like, I'm scared. Like, because it's just he's a drop big right now. You bring him out on the perimeter, he's going to get destroyed. And I think he's looked a little bit more mobile from just like what I've seen now. Like it's gotten better, but I'm not buying him as bring him out on the perimeter and he's going to survive. I think you got to draft him to be a drop guy and extremely skilled offensively, very skilled, good footwork. Yeah. There's a lot of fun stuff offensively, but you better have a plan for him on defense.
Yeah, the post footwork is awesome. The scoring touch in the post. My counter to that would be, how often are people posting up? Is he going to get 10 posts up a game? Because Jokic doesn't. So I'm just really skeptical on how it all translates. The scoring touch, the footwork, the post scoring, the short roll scoring is really fun. There's some really intriguing passing flashes too. The hands on defense, they go through lulls of being really good or really bad. We see that in mostly the blocks, but the defense at large, it's unplayable. Really heavy feet, like you said. He's going to get torched anytime he gets pulled out into space. Can't change direction in space. Slow processing speed, and then unfortunately also isn't shooting it at all. So it's tricky. I get the intrigue. I get the excitement. He's probably going to be a second round guy. And if you're taking a swing in the second, cool. But
it's a fun swing.
I wouldn't be overly moved by his highlight based on how the games tend to go.
It's a fun swing. I think there's a lot of intrigue. It's just like you're not building the defense around him but I'm also not building a defense to fix or to survive with Hansen Yang. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and
I'm not
I just
drafting him in the second round to be like, we're going to put this guy in and we feel great about adding pieces around our second round pick. It's like, no, you're drafting usually a second round guy to be like, we're either going to try to use the best out of him and see if he can survive defensively with what we have in place. It's just Jokic was one of those, oh my gosh, you hit the lottery. So I don't know. It's just a tough one for me. Just a tough one. I would get the swing. I would understand the swinging in the second round on him 100% because offensively it's very, very fun. And he's gigantic.
Very large man. Moving on to Alex Toohey, wing from Australia, playing for Sydney this year, 6'7 3/4, 223 pounds, 6'10 3/4 inch wingspan.
Noran, shout out to Noran. If you just spoke that into existence, I will hunt you down.
Well, they got to sell jerseys to recoup some of the cost of the sale.
I'm kidding, Noran. Thank you for your support always. Toohey, where you at with Mr. Toohey?
Kind of out.
Okay, great talk. I like Toohey still. I believe that's a swing I'd take.
I love the motor. He plays so goddamn hard, and love the off-ball movement, off-ball activity, really good straight line driver. And then a lot of the defensive matchups he was taking were really shitty. Like he got the short end of he got the short end so often where there were times where he was like long stretches where he was taking the opposing center and then having to guard the point guard. He was basically getting the toughest defensive matchup in the vast majority of his games. So I think that led into some of the defensive inconsistency. He's a little spastic there, but I think once he's not having to guard shifty 6-foot point guards or bruising 6'10 centers, and can actually just guard a normal wing, I think some of the footwork and happy feet stuff gets reined in a little bit. He just can't shoot either or pass.
If he unlocked the shot, I feel like there's a route in which he really plays at the league. Because when we saw him in person, I was like, dude, this kid can play. He just knows how to do the little things. I'm in. He's tough. He's physical. He battles. I like the defense. It's just a shot. Like if you buy the shot, I think you've got a rotation player for a long time. If you can get that consistent, if he could just buy in to be a 3-D guy, then I think he could play for a long time because he's got good measurements. And he's tough as nails. So like I just, it's one of those guys where like I would still swing because I wonder if like, hey, the Thunder swing on him maybe later on and get him with Chip and there's our rotation guy in a year like that we play. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just how realistic is it that the shot gets there, and it's been a big overhaul the last few years. Plays super hard, just has to get a little more consistent on the defensive end, and then turn into a really good spot up shooter. Because then if he can even just attract or like draw some long closeouts, I think there's some really fun slashing ability there. Plays really physical, has some shit to his game. So it's just, I think I lean more towards being skeptical on the shot than optimistic.
Completely agree. Any other ones?
Oh yeah, we got 5 more names here. 6 more. Rocco Zikarsky, 7'3", 257 pound center, 7'4 3/4 inch wingspan. Staying in the draft kind of surprised me. Really good rim runner. I like how he runs the floor. Kind of a willing shooter this year a little bit. Some flashes of like, oh, maybe in like 5 years. Good shot blocker. Never plays, can't defend in space. Incredibly weak lower body. Gets moved all the time for someone that big.
I just think he's got a ways to go.
I was shocked he stayed in.
I think he's got some like 2 areas of his like I like him as a lob threat, and I like him if he can just like play old school NBA defense and just sit in the middle of the paint and block shots. without getting a violation. Other than that, I just think there's a lot of developmental stuff that needs to come around. Like he needs a lot of patience, but he's gigantic.
He's so big.
If you have him as a lob threat only, like he could do some stuff, but I think the defense like on the perimeter is just tough.
And then he's going to be 1,000% a drop big.
Yeah.
But he's slow off the ground and doesn't change directions well. And the lower body just is nowhere near as strong as it needs to be. He gets moved super easily.
He's gigantic, but the lower body is really undeveloped.
It's the exact same things we were talking about with Noah and how weak his lower body is, but this is with a 7'3" center.
Yeah. He's got an unbelievable mullet. I will give him that.
Yeah, and I love how he runs the floor. Good vertical spacer, just barely plays too. So tricky one. He's probably going to be a guy who goes in the second round because he is gigantic. And if it hits and you get second round value out of it, huge hit.
I'd swing late second to just be like, you're playing in the G League this year. Let's see what you got.
Or like, just, hey, stay over in Australia and do 8,000 squats a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing I want to do.
I would want him in the G League because I would want him playing.
It's a weird thing I want to do. Might do it this off season, but I almost think it's a bad thing to send him back because what's going to change? I'd rather be like, no, you're going to play in the G League all year. We're going to play as much as possible. Let's see what you got. We're going to work on your conditioning and see what you got. I don't know. It's just, I was shocked he stayed in.
Same.
Shocked.
Okay. Moving on to Dink Pate, 6'6" and a quarter guard wing, 201 pounds, 6'9" 3/4 inch wingspan, playing for the Mexico City Capitans this year.
There's times on film with Dink Pate where you're like, oh man, this is really fun.
His slashing and some of the scoring craft around the rim and the Euros. It's like, oh, that rocked.
There's some shit where you're like, oh my goodness. Now here's the problem. If you watch Dink Pate highlights, you're probably like, this guy's a first round pick.
Yeah.
You watch Dink Pate film, you're probably understanding why the buzz hasn't been cooking. It's just tough because weird path. He went to the Ignite. He's one of the youngest guys to go with the Ignite. Even with the Ignite, I was still like, hey, there's some flashes here. Then we had like the weird month or two last year where we were like, could he try to force the NBA to change the rule that they do not change to let him enter the draft? And I was like, this isn't going to work. They're not going to do this.
No.
Didn't work. Then we were like, oh, maybe he's going to go overseas and play with the NBL. Then he stays in the G League with the Mexico City Capitans. I have no idea what to do with him. I think someone will take a swing in the second round, but I haven't heard anything to make me feel better about that. I'll put it that way.
It wouldn't shock me if he just goes undrafted and back in the G League next year. Unfortunately,
yeah,
the athletic tools rock, but I think these last 2 years have really screwed up his developmental curve. The rim pressure, the athletic tools, they're really fun, but the finishing isn't there, or consistency wise, the defensive consistency isn't there, the passing isn't there, the shooting isn't there. I really wish that he was like just coming out of high school, because it'd be like, oh my God, this dude is going to be incredible in college next year. But unfortunately he's not. And
it feels the same.
Yeah.
It feels like nothing's changed. And that's the bigger thing to me, is I feel like he's the same guy I saw. What changed? So yeah, there could be some stuff going on behind the scenes. It's always tough with guys like that, because that's where ones you dig into. You're like, okay, what's going on? Because there is stuff you see, and you're like, oh my, these are some fun tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I still think another G League year, but I'd like him to get to a team where I'm like, you might not have a shot of being on the roster. Like, I love OKC's G League team. I think they do it the right way. When it comes to like, we really see them develop guys and give them chances and stuff like that. So I just would like him to get somewhere where I'm like, just try to build some confidence with the kid. Like, let him have some stability because there's still some fun upside. Anything else?
Yeah, we can just kind of go rapid fire through some of these names. I'll just give them all to you and feel free to share any thoughts. We're going long here. So Izan, Almansa, Saliou, Niang, Mohamed, Diawara, Lachlan, Olbrich, Eli, and Ndiaye. Any thoughts, likes, concerns?
I would draft Lachlan.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's going to get the classic, he doesn't have great measurements. What is he? What position is he? And I get to a point where I'm like, we're overthinking. Can he play? Draft him. Like, I like Lachlan. I did his profile for the guide. I've watched him. I just think that's a guy in the second round where you might be shocked. You get a rotation piece. You're like, whoa, it works. He figures it. Those guys are just like grinders. They just figure out a way to like stick on the court. So I like Lachlan. Go ahead. Whatever thoughts you have. I feel like I have some thoughts on Diawara, but I just want to bring up my notes again.
Yeah, I love Lachlan's motor and the cutting, the footwork, and the finishing consistency has taken a big jump this year compared to last year. Works incredibly hard, and there's some inconsistencies with the footwork and fundamentals on defense. But he's one of those guys where I kind of weirdly trust it to improve. Eli and Ndiaye playing for Real is really intriguing. I think the jumper looks like it could be reworked. I was kind of encouraged with the shooting touch. The problem is that the mechanics look different literally every single time, and that's a problem. But the at-rim scoring, the defensive upside, really intriguing with him. Just incredibly raw. Not a whole lot of on-ball creation or playmaking or passing there, but I think potential intriguing draft and stash guy. Saliou Niang playing for Trento. This is a guy where it's like I was watching his film, loved the athletic tools, loved a lot of the defensive stuff. The rim pressure was incredibly fun. Unfortunately, he's also 20. I'd like it a lot more if he's 18. Shot isn't there. He looks like he gets sped up a lot, and just like mentally, especially when trying to finish in traffic around the rim. Passing isn't necessarily there, but the athletic tools, the rim pressure, and a lot of the defensive flashes I thought were really, really intriguing. And then Diawara, I'm kind of
he's tough.
He's maybe the most interesting out of this group for me. Really kind of fun rebounder, another guy who just plays incredibly hard. Does a lot of the dirty work. I think there's some real defensive potential there. It's just what, if anything, is he ever going to get to on offense?
Yeah, Diawara is one of those
playing for Chile.
Yeah, him and Mo Fay were kind of two late stash guys I was kind of intrigued by. Fay withdrew from the draft, and then Diawara stayed in. I'm still a little intrigued as just like a stash, like, hey, maybe you can develop something, because there is some shit to his game defensively, and he's a physical specimen. Like I think he's 6'9", like a 7'4"-ish or 7'3", but stocky muscle ball, like Corey Maggette vibes. Like there's just immediately on tape, you're like, oh shit, like so it's just defense and high motor. You're like, oh, can we get one more thing to unlock here? But yeah, we had a good comment here. It's like in the chat said he's easy to love. It's just hard to see it, imagine it'll work out eventually. It's like, yeah, it's one of those guys you're like, you get why you'd go scout him.
Yeah. And
you'd probably leave like, man, I kind of like him, but you're like, well, how is it going to work?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay. Well, to wrap up, I know we're going long here. Apologies, but this hopefully isn't, but it might be our last episode of the year.
No, it's not our last. We're going to do one more.
Okay.
We're going to figure out a way to do one more. Yeah, we can do it. No. Hold on for the fans out there.
Oh,
and I'm cut off. So here we go. I got to slide over.
You didn't update the layouts or play around with it? Just
No, I did it. There you go. Here's what you got, folks. If I we're
okay.
having
Well,
a day. There we go. That's better. All right, you're captain chair right
welcome
now.
to the Tyler Metcalf show.
Okay.
This is great.
I'm
if
your
we could just slide you off the screen a little more.
Good layouts here. I like it. Oh,
there we
now
go.
We're back. We're good.
There we go.
Shout out StreamYard. Now I'm gigantic. All right.
The other one though.
Yeah.
Get all of this for the listeners. So obviously, welcome to the No Ceilings Green Room, the most exclusive club in the basketball world, and especially the draft world. No more than 14 can get in. It is not our lottery rankings. It is based on vibes, upside production, potential vibes. Guys can be admitted, they can be kicked out, they can wait in line forever and never get in. But currently in there, we have Cooper Flagg, Trey Johnson, Derek Queen, Dylan Harper, Kasper Siakashonis. We good with those 5?
Yes.
Okay.
No, talk to me. Oh, no, I'm not.
No. Well, he's good. Next 5: Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Kaman Malawach, Jeremiah Fears, Con Knipple. We good?
Yeah.
Then we have Cedric Coward, Nolan Traore, Carter Bryant.
I think Traore's got to go.
Agreed.
And we can revisit the top 5 if you want.
Nope.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like taking that heat.
Well, we get the next episode. We'll do one last pod, and we'll do a real green room event.
Well, fair.
But Traore's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
In line, we have Danny Wolf, Neek Clifford, Hansen Yang, Noa Essengue, Kobe Sanders, Maxime Reynaud, Yannick Conan Niederhauser, and Hugo Gonzalez.
I didn't realize the line was this drunk. Who do you think gets in? Oh man. Anyone leave the line?
I think Hansen has better things to do.
Okay. I think Hansen left
hot right now.
I'm going to nominate Noah to get in.
Noah to get in? I'm good with that.
Okay, Noah's in. I'll update the graphic.
I think Kobe Sanders went home.
Okay, Kobe Sanders went home. The Neat Clifford, Danny Wolf conversation is going to happen in our final episode, and it's going to be tough, but we're going to get through this together because I think you feel about Danny Wolf how I feel about Neat Clifford. We're going to do it. I'm going to promote it. I have them
back-to-back on my board, and I have Neek higher for what it's worth. So
I have Neek higher, too.
Don't come at me with that.
No, I'm just saying we're going to have that conversation. They've been in line for like 2 months. We got to have the conversation. We're going to promote it, pay-per-view. Danny Wolf, Neat Clifford, can they get in?
Do you want to save the final... Do you want to put 14 in right now, or you want to leave one spot open?
No, let's leave one spot because I do think next episode we might be removing some folks.
Okay. For line.
Oh, we need names.
We do. I'm going to nominate Chaz Lanier.
I'm going to accept your nomination. That's a good one. We heard he's had a pretty good couple workouts. We can't keep nominating international guys. You know what? I'm going to nominate a popular name right now. I'm going to nominate, and you can reject my nominations. Mm-hmm. I'm going to nominate Asa Newell.
Sure.
Okay, great.
I think we just throw names in line. I think we're good with that.
I think we're good.
I think Thomas Sorber's interested in line.
Oh yeah, he's back. We kicked Sorber out because he was hurt, and then he's back. He's got to be back.
I think Trace Richardson
rallied. Yeah, let's just we're getting the line juiced up for the final episode for the finale.
Walter Clayton's
in line.
Intrigued. And
I'm gonna nominate. Oh gosh, dang it! I had the name.
What position? Nothing. Okay,
nothing. I missed it. I had it on my list and I missed it. Joan Beringer. I'm going to nominate for the line.
Sure.
We're gonna have an ugly last episode. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna get through this.
Drake Powell.
Drake Powell, why not? Get him in line.
He saw the crowd building up, and he's like, "What's going on over there?"
Get him in line. Pick him up. I'm going to nominate Rasheer Fleming to get back in line.
Okay.
Great. This is fantastic. We're having fun.
That's all I got.
Chat says this is the decision 2.0 is going to be next episode. Noran says keep the green room as is. Kobe Sanders in line is crazy. It's vibes. You don't get it.
Yes.
It's about vibes. It's not about projections. Kobe Sanders vibes. Hi. Zion James. I'm throwing him in line. Let's get some muscle in line. Why not? The last episode, or it's the second to last episode. We got to get guys in line. We can't put anybody else in line after this episode.
Correct. That is how it works.
Okay.
That's all I got.
That's all, you know what? I think that's good for me too. You know what? I'm going to get one more nomination in because you always got to go to bat for the little guys. And I'm going to nominate Ryan Nembhard for the line. That's all I got. I think that's everyone, unless we missed someone.
No, I think we're
good. Or no, who we miss? Say it. Oh, no, Murray Boyles. Do you want Murray Boyles in line? Yeah, we got to put Murray Boyles in line. We got to put him in.
line.
We got to put him in line. Oh, Adu Thiero. Someone said in the chat. Did we put Adu?
No.
Okay. Future Boston Celtics draft pick. Adu Thiero.
Yeah, God, he'll look so good in Maine.
It's beautiful this time of year right here.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got. We went long enough. Rucker, blessed as always. We will be back early next week for one just final intel Q&A, all that kind of stuff. We'll be bouncing all over the place. Hopefully going live Monday. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But we will be, the whole team will be live Wednesday and Thursday for the draft, both days, doing a live show. Keep an eye out for it. We'll have some fun. But until then, all of our stuff can be found on NoCeilingsNBA.com. Incredible work going up, as always, and on the YouTube channel. And you can find our draft guide at NoCeilingsNBA.com. But until then, he is Tyler Rucker. You can follow him at Tyler_Rucker. I'm Tyler Metcalf. You can follow me at TMetcalf11. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next time. See ya.